A very fresh morning to all of you present here. I expect all of you to get pepped up and energized as I can assure you all that today's webinar will be no less than an experience for all of us. You talk of the empowered woman, unbending youth, epitome of creativity, and illustration of humanity. The lady herself is here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, with utmost honor, let me introduce to you Miss Ananya Birla. Though her profile is a little long, but students, every word that I'm going to say is worth listening and shall motivate each one of you sitting there. Let's see what the world says about her. Her empowering spirit translates directly to her music, says Billboard. An Indian-born, London-bred badass who serves an inspiration to marginalized youth and women of all continents, says Euphoria. Scon says an integral part of our nation's music industry. One of the most striking artists on the international pop scene, Fab UK. Ananya Birla's Fingerprint EP is a whole snack on milk. A woman to watch, my domain. She is ready to become a breakout artist worldwide. And there's lots more. Ananya is a 26-year-old singer, songwriter, entrepreneur, and a mental health advocate. Recently, Ananya has made waves by being the only Indian signed to Maverick Management who managed the likes of U2, G-Eazy, The Weeknd, and Miley Cyrus. The first homegrown artist to go platinum with an English language track in India and break the dominance of film music on the Indian music scene. Ananya has hit over 350 million global streams. Last year, Ananya released The Infectious Day Goes By with Jamaican-American hitmaker Sean Kingston, one of the first major collabs between US and the Indian music artists. This followed multi-platinum selling hits, Hold On, Meant to Be, Circles, Living the Life, Better, and the release of her first EP, Fingerprint, with UMG and Island Records, which included hit single Blackout featuring Nigerian hip-hop stars Vector and Variety. Her last single, Let There Be Love, which is the topic today, the most beautiful one, marks her debut on American radio as the first Indian to be featured on major top 40 pop radio stations, such as Sirius Hits 1 and Radio Disney. The self-taught santur and guitar player has been propelled by low-key gigs around London to performing at some of the Asia's biggest music events, including Global Citizen, Oktoberfest, and Sunburn, and opening for artists like Wiz Khalifa and Coldplay. Ananya has scaled the charts at home and appeared on major playlists and radio stations in the US, UK, Europe, Australia, and the Middle East and Southeast Asia. She has also collaborated with major producers and writers, including Jim Beans, pop guru Nick Atkinson, Empire State of Mind writer Angela Hunt, and Grammy-nominated Mood Melodies. Listed as one of the GQ's most influential young Indians, a Forbes Woman to Watch, an ET Panache trendsetter, as well as being featured on the Forbes 120 power list, Ananya is a strong believer in equality. She set up Empower in 2016 along with her mother, which works to stamp out the stigma around mental illness in India and to provide world-class care where there has been little to date. She also promotes female empowerment through her microfinance business, Swatantru, which helps women entrepreneurs in rural India grow their businesses and become financially independent. Ananya founded the business at the mere age of 17. Students, yes, you heard it right. It was just 17. The organization has been placed in the top 25 best places to work in its segment by globally recognized Great Places to Work 2020. Moreover, Swatantrata's in-house app Sathi has won multiple awards for innovation including by the Economic Times and has been rated A+ by CRISIL. Saying all that, there is one quote which comes to my mind by Roman Paine. You must give everything to make your life as beautiful as the dreams that dance in your imagination. With a very, very warm heart, we welcome you, Ms. Ananya. And now, without taking any further time, I would request you to share your inspirational life journey with our students.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. That was very heartwarming and overwhelming. Um, it's a pleasure to be here, firstly, and everyone who's watching, thank you so much for coming on. A very good morning to all of you. I am in LA, and it's just touching 10 p.m. right now, and it's a pleasure for me to be talking to all of you. Um, I don't know where to start. I think I would probably like to talk about the importance of not giving up. I think you'll have heard a little bit and maybe read a little bit about my journey and how it started and me starting Swatantra when I was 17 and all of that stuff. But I think the one thread that's been common through everything that I have done so far, and it's just the beginning, has been the fact that you can't give up. You just cannot take no as an answer. You can't let life throw you down, and every time it does that, it's so important to get back up. Um, and I think to give you a little bit, I would like to talk a little bit about my latest single, Let There Be Love, and the challenges faced around that, and how we as a team, we didn't give up, and how we sort of managed to release it during this pandemic. So just to tell you a little bit, Let There Be Love is a complete COVID baby. I like to call it a COVID baby. So right from the lockdown happened, so I had left India to come to LA because now I had this global dream, which was always a global dream, to hit the billboards, to make it, to be one of the key players in the global music industry. And once we touched about 350 million streams, it was time to come to LA and make my mark here. So my best friend and I, we packed our bags and we literally just flew down to LA. That's basically what happened, if I was supposed to sort of sum it up in a line. So looking back, it seems crazy now. Like, is that what we actually did? We just packed our bags and just came to LA, like rushing behind this crazy dream that we had. But that's literally what we did. And of course, we had a plan and all of that stuff. But it was literally us just packing our bags and telling our parents we'll be back soon. And we came to LA, and the plan was first to get signed to management and all of these things. So all of that happened, and then the pandemic hit. And at that stage, I had about 2 to 3 days to decide whether I want to stay back in LA or go back to India, because borders had shut down and flights weren't operating, and we didn't know when flights were going to start operating again. And those 2 or 3 days really, I think shaped a lot of what has happened since then. And I instantly knew that I was not going to go back, and I instantly knew that this is a dream, and I'm going to persevere through it. I'm going to see myself through it. I'm not going to stop till I reach the top, and that obviously is going to start with a release. So I'm sure my parents will understand. I'm sure my loved ones in India will understand. I just can't give up. So in the middle of a pandemic, I decided not to go back and stay in LA. At this stage, it was just two of us. We didn't have, any sort of help around us. We didn't know too many people here. So it was just us and this big dream and this entire lockdown. And we weren't allowed to get out of the house. And it was so beautiful how from there I started writing more music, and the right people started coming in my life, and I started introspecting a lot into my own mind and my own heart and what I want to achieve and what I want to do. And eventually Let There Be Love came to me, and I recorded it right in my best friend's bedroom upstairs. And we put up blankies and all of these things so that it becomes more acoustic friendly. Recorded the song there. It's the producer, his name is Aaron Pierce. He's a really nice man, multi Grammy winning. But regardless of all of that, he's just a very nice man. Lovely song. He liked the way the song was sounding in my voice. And Sirius XM, really liked the song, and they picked it up and they wanted to play it on American radio 1 week before release, and that's really not been heard before. And it was just it all just was a huge roller coaster. The artwork which you see of Let There Be Love was shot literally in this living room of mine, and I remember we had started shooting, and then protests started happening outside because of the whole Black Lives Matter movement, which was really sad. So there were people really. I could hear grenades going off, and I could hear, the Starbucks nearby was on fire. But we had to continue with our shoot. That was the mission for that day, and we had to complete it no matter what. So we completed 10 looks. There was a curfew, and we finished it before the curfew, and everyone left. Um, got the images we required. So, the entire song has really been, the entire package really, from, talking to everyone after that, radio, promos, interviews, everything has happened from this home, literally virtually. And it's truly been a journey of not giving up. So whether it was just even the photo shoot that day, we had to get 10 looks done. Yes, there were protests going on outside. Yes, we have to be safe, but you know what? We have to complete what we set out to do, and we're going to complete it no matter what. And we completed it. And that's kind of what I wanted to really talk about, is that how it's so important that no matter what you do, you just cannot give up. Life will keep throwing curveballs, whether that is a breakup in your life, whether that is a family issue, whether that is a pandemic. Life will keep happening, but
Right.
if you allow life to keep happening, it'll keep happening. You need to take charge of your life, and that's the importance of not giving up. And I think once you start practicing that in your daily life, it really makes a huge difference. I think you can start seeing everything happen your way. You can start see you start seeing doors opening up. You start seeing the right people enter your life. Um, so before I stop talking and take your questions, because I know all of y'all have, are interested in entrepreneurship, so let me just focus a little bit more about Swatantra. I was 17 when I started Swatantra, and everyone else in the microfinance industry was in their late 40s, and I was a 17-year-old girl with absolutely no experience. So for me to even get the license, it took a year, which has never been heard of. Everyone used to get it in a month. I got it after a year. To get a team going was really tough. I don't blame them. Why would anyone leave their job and join a 17-year-old who has this crazy vision and absolutely no experience? And I remember even trying to get the first client was so tough. But you know what? I went right to the basics. What am I providing? I'm providing a loan to a woman in rural India to continue her business, to expand her business. To her, what matters the most. So now I need to understand her better. So how do I understand her better? I need to go to her, I need to talk to her, I need to understand her. What does my consumer actually need? So I would drive down to Vada, which was in the village area, around about 3.5 hours away from home. So I would drive down and come back at least 4 times a week during that phase for that 1 year to really understand my client. And what I realized was every rupee for them matters, no matter what. So when I started, I cut the interest rate of the entire industry. And as soon as I did that, we started acquiring clients immediately. The second thing I realized was for them, social meaning and being socially ostracized is a very, very big deal. So if they lose a bike, it's not as much of a hassle as them being socially ostracized. So I created something called a social collateral. So we put women in groups. So let's say just for purpose of math, let's say we put 11 women together and we lend them all 100 rupees, and one woman um, cannot repay, the other 10 need to pay the 10 rupees for her plus the interest. And that puts a lot of pressure on them. So, but really understanding the client and, really being, not giving up and continuing to understand the client, continuing to understand how we can make our product the best and give our clients the best that is possibly out there is how I created Swatantra, which literally is now a billion dollar GLP company. And I can't believe that we've reached this stage, because I still remember coming home and crying every day in the bathroom because I didn't know what to do next. So at every stage, it's all about not giving up. It's all about just not looking back and just continuing to move forward, learning from your mistakes. So whether that's in my music, whether that's in one day, like the photo shoot I spoke about, whether that's in one song, or whether that's about creating an enterprise, you just cannot give up. And I think that's what I want to talk about today because that's the mood that I was in. I hope you guys have got something out of that, and I would love to take questions.
Sure. I think this is a very nice learning for all of us to understand that the life is all about moving on and just go on. That actually inspires us, be it pandemic, be it the situation you were in there and you are right now in LA, you've just kept yourself going on. Okay, so I think before moving any further, we have a very beautiful video to be shared with you, which is your own video, where we have your mother in it as well. I'll just share the screen with all of you.
The way they create music out of just nothing at all, just using recyclable home stuff, they've just created entire music out of it. But I think what was nice is that it just creates a lot of positive feelings within you.
Music is a great way to express yourself. I absolutely love music, and Empower is all about mental health. They were teaching us really well, so it was really cool.
We started out with very simple routines, but it went on to getting a little complicated. I felt really energized after being part of the whole Stomp experience.
Our phrase is stamp out stigma and empower, and this would be stomp out stigma.
Yeah. Just shows the power of music and how one can create something as great as that out of nothing.
Malu, super awesome.
Well, I think this speaks a lot about your passion towards music. We want to understand how did this journey actually start?
So the video that you watched was Stomp. It's a very renowned. I don't know how to explain. It's a play basically. It's a musical, and so they had invited me back. They had invited me to create music, to teach me how to create music with, you know, like you were seeing in the video, like dustbins and pans and all this kind of stuff. And I asked my mom to come along with me, and we had gone. So that was the video that you saw. It was great. They make music out of literally anything and everything. How does the journey start? The journey started with a dream, and I think the dream came from a place of wanting to connect with people after I realized how much music had helped me in my life, and how music was my best friend through a lot of trying times in my life. And you know, when I was my teenagers, I would always have headphones, earphones. Even at dinner, I was quite, it was, I guess now looking back, it's a little bit rude, but I would always have earphones, at least one in, and I would be listening to a song, and, you know, just because I was in my own world, and I would feel like the song is understanding me. I think I always felt like I wasn't like everyone else. There was something a little bit different about me. It felt like I was a deeper thinker. It just felt like I wasn't too into the typical teenage stuff. I never really enjoyed clubbing or anything of that kind. I was a little bit quote unquote different like that. I wasn't very typically a typical teenager. So growing up, I faced different challenges. I think many people, I mean, everyone has their own experiences. So music really helped me through that. And I think when I was in Oxford, I realized that you know, life is too short to not do what you really love to do, and I wanted to, you know, pursue music and create a name for myself in the global music industry. And I just really genuinely just dropped out of Oxford. Just the way I packed my bags and came to LA, the same way I just dropped out of Oxford. It's just about following your instinct and not giving up, and it's all really paid off very, very well. So it was always a dream, and I was in the school band. I done this on tour. I used to, you know, like you said, I used to gig in Camden and Brixton, and so I think it was all just meant to be.
Right. I think when it comes to music, Indians are very particular about their tastes and preferences. And contrary to that, you sang in English, only in English, and you became the first Indian artist with an English single to go platinum. So, was that journey really easy for you to settle in the Indian mindset?
So the thing for me is my songwriting process started because of poetry. I used to write a lot of poetry from ever since I can remember because it was very cathartic to me. It was a form of expression.
Right.
And I think in English, and so I write in English. It's as simple as that. If I used to think in Hindi, I would have written in Hindi. I think in English, so I write in English, and so I sing in English. Um, and it's pretty much that. Yeah, of course, like starting off. People said that there's no scope for English music to do well in India. It's completely Bollywood. It's completely Bollywood music, Hindi music, Punjabi music is all that sells. Many people said that. I just didn't believe it. I agreed with what they're saying. That of course that's very important. I love Bollywood music myself, but music is a universal language, and if I write and sing from my heart, I'm sure I'll connect with people, and it did. So I just again didn't give up. You just can't give up.
Right.
So I guess yeah, I did. People did say that, and I think one more thing I experienced. Well, two more things. One is that even if you're singing in English, why can't it have a little bit of a Indian vibe to it?
Yeah.
And I didn't fully agree with that because why should I just, for example, put in a santoor or a sitar or a tabla for the heck of putting it in? That I think that to me is it's cultural inappropriation. Why should I do that? If the song doesn't, for example, a tabla is a very prestigious instrument. All of these instruments are very prestigious. So why should I just put in a sound for the heck of it sounding Indian? I didn't agree with that at
Right.
all. But for example, Circle's acoustic, I think it deserved a tabla, and so we put a tabla, and the song did really well. So I really think it's song dependent, and it can't just be a universal sound just for the heck of being a sound. I think Indian music is very, very precious, and you can't just, for the heck of it, just put an Indian instrument for it to sound Indian because I am Indian. I think that's not how it works. It's about what's in your
Yeah.
heart, and um, that was number two. That was the second challenge. And the third challenge was people thinking that I'm moving away from my roots because I'm singing in English, and it can't be further from the truth. I think when someone says that I'm making India proud, it's one of the best compliments that I can get.
True.
I'm born, raised in Bombay, India. I love India. It's we eat ghar ka khana every day. I speak very fluently in Hindi actually. So a couple of misunderstandings, a couple of things here and there which I had to overcome, which I think slowly and steadily. More than proving to other people, it's about you accepting how other people may think of you and still moving
Right.
on, not giving up, which I've been able to do. So yeah, whenever there's any sort of uncharted territory, it's always you're a little bit of a maverick. So it's always a little bit of a challenge, but it comes with its benefits, and I hope that I'm able to create a path where for someone else who may want to achieve what I want to achieve, and I'm sure the other person will do it in their own way and will make it way, way, way bigger than I have or I
Right.
will. But I hope I'm able to do that because yeah, it has been very challenging, but at the same time, it's been very fulfilling.
I guess you're very right. You said there has to be a maverick and there has to be a high-headed person who's full of passion as you are, and you follow your own individual choices. When we listen to your tracks, be it Let There Be Love, Hold On, Unstoppable, deeper that we're trying to understand the lyrics, it speaks a lot about emotions and feelings. And honestly, your songs are very, very relatable. That's what we feel. So, what inspires you to write such beautiful pieces?
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's literally just, honestly speaking, it's just what I've experienced. It's just my own experiences. It's just how I feel. Even if a producer is sending me songs, I will only put my voice to it if I feel the lyrics. If I'm not writing it, I'm co-writing it. I love the songwriting process. I'm always writing in my journal, and I guess that shines through. Having said that, I think every artist um, has music or at least has a couple of songs that are very relatable. I think most of the songs out there that are in on the billboards or on any sort of charts are always relatable. There's always something that you can relate to. It's at the end of the day, human emotions are human emotions. We all feel the same things. We just may feel it for different things and in different ways. And that's what makes music so amazing because it evokes emotions, and human emotions are the same. So happiness, sadness, we all feel the same things. We just feel it in different degrees for different things, and that's about it. You just have to write honestly because emotions are emotions. If I feel it, hopefully you'll feel it as well, but maybe in a different way and for a different thing. It's all about writing from your heart.
Right, great. That's a great piece of advice. So we have one of our students, Harshal Sarogi, who would like to raise a question.
Sure.
A very good morning, ma'am. My
Hi,
question to you
Akash.
is,
Yeah.
I am a singer, so I want to ask you what your singing actually represents.
Firstly, it's amazing that you're a singer, and good luck on your journey.
Thank you, ma'am.
Singing to me represents peace from mind. I don't like to say peace of mind because it's peace from mind, because the mind is a monkey. It keeps, nagging you. So when I'm singing, performing, when I'm in front of camera, I get peace from my mind. So I'm in the present moment. I forget about everything and I'm just really living it up. So I think for me, singing and music is me feeling alive. That's how I can describe it best.
Very greatly answered. Okay, next we have with us Advitya Raj Kakkar. He also has a question for you.
Sure.
Good morning, ma'am.
Hi, how are you? Good morning.
Fine, ma'am. Ma'am, my question to you is, ma'am, when did you consider yourself to be truly successful? After you became a singer or after you became a social activist?
I think that's a very tricky question because I honestly don't think I'm still successful. I think I don't know what that'll look like. I think if I ever feel like I'm successful, then that'll be my own demise. I really don't feel like I'm successful at all. I think I'm very underachieved. I think I have a long way to go. There's a fire in my belly that just doesn't die down. I guess that's the best way I can answer that in the most honest way possible.
Great. I think that's a lot of wisdom which is coming out. We still look forward to success, no matter whatever we've achieved. Wherein you're
Okay.
talking about entrepreneurship, and that was really very inspiring for all of us. That little thought which you've spoken at the end, that you really want to make a difference in the lives of the people, and you started at such a young age. So, how did this idea come to your mind that I need a startup of my own? I need to do something as an entrepreneur.
I think that video actually genuinely answered it. As a child, I was just fascinated by Legos. My mom still has my Legos actually. So you get, I'm sure all of you all must have done this. You get these manuals, and it's just step by step by step, and you get so into it that before you even know it's done. But it's a whole process, and you have to follow the process. But you just start so small, and then you build something so beautiful, and that really fascinates me because it made me feel like I can just start with one idea and it can really grow into something really beautiful.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. Second thing, I've always been very acutely sensitive and aware of the inequalities that are in the world. And of course, growing up in India, I noticed that in India. So there was a lot of guilt in my heart. And I always wanted to do something to give back. I always wondered why I was in the position I was and why other people on the road suffering so much because it was raining were where they were. This is when I was growing up. Now, of course, I've found answers in my own ways, but I always wanted to do something to give back. And I think the passion of startups and then the passion or the need or the want or the purpose of me wanting to give back kind of came together. And microfinance sort of, it started as a microfinance company, and now, of course, it's become into more of a fintech company because I acquired a housing company, and we've gone into like you mentioned Sathi, which is completely
Yeah.
cashless, and we've gone into insurance, and we've gone into house extension, and various other different type of products, financial solutions. I would say financial training, but that's how it basically started.
I think if we say that there is no limit, you are an example for that. You just keep on expanding and growing, and you still in the process of doing that. Okay, well, talking about that, I've heard one of your interviews and you gave a very, very prominent statement. I think you spoke about that right now also. You said that there was a time when you were actually searching for a single client, and now you have a portfolio that has touched $1 billion. And then you said, "Ab samajh hi nahi aata ye kaise hua." So we are even more eager to understand that how did this happen?
I don't know, I think it's just having a strong vision, a great team, that's something that, and you can't give up. So I think focusing on teamwork is so important. One thing that I have learned over the years, not so many, but how many ever years, is that skills can be acquired, but emotional equity cannot be gained. So you need to find people who are, of course, skilled at what they do, but have a lot of emotional equity in you and the vision, and they share the same vision. Because if someone has emotional equity, then they will go that extra mile. And if you're ambitious and you want to achieve big things in this world, you need people around you who are as ambitious, if not more, around you, who can push you but still understand you, who can respect you, and who can be there for you. And I was very lucky to find a team who, and because this startup, I think emotional equity is anyways higher. When people join in with you, right in the beginning, I think emotional equity is always higher because they're with you, they've seen the struggle, they want to be there. And I see that with my mentors in my music as well. My Matt and Greg both are hugely emotionally invested in the vision, and it makes a huge difference. So teamwork is very, very important, and having the right team is very important. And I think I was very successful and very lucky that I found the right team, and that's really been the driving force of Swatantra. I think it's not just been me. I may be the face and the voice, but actually there are tons of people behind this. There are tons of people even behind this Zoom call. It's not me. It's just me speaking right now. So it's not just me at all. I'm just a very, very, very small part of everything. There are tons of people behind.
I think that's a lesson for our students. Always maintain relationships with people. You're always connected with one another, and you have to perform as a team. So
Yeah.
we also have, yeah, please, you were saying something.
No, I was basically just adding to you. I said it's all about teamwork. It's about having a good team.
Yeah, actually, we have an EDIC club, which is an entrepreneurship development and incubation center that is in-house within our college, and we promote entrepreneurship. So I want you to tell our students any two most important skill which is required to become a successful entrepreneur.
I think I think one very important thing is that as an entrepreneur, you need to know that you need to get your hands dirty. So in the beginning, you're going to have to do everything. So whether that is typing emails, whether that is literally, writing your vision down, whether that is calling people, whether that is making a schedule, whether that's making a business plan, if there's execution, everything, putting SOPs down, your operating procedures, standard operating procedures, whether that is recruitment, HR, you'll have to be, every single department you'll have to look into. So you have to be ready to get your hands really dirty as an entrepreneur. It's only after a couple of years that you can start building a team and, start delegating. That's another barrier actually. So I can talk about that. I mean, it's interesting, but initially you do so much yourself that when the company starts growing, you have to delegate, and it's almost like a little bit of like a attachment anxiety. Like you have to delegate, but you don't know how to do it because, and I faced that, but you have to do it, and I got through it. So yeah, you have to, number one, you have to be ready to get your hands dirty, and number two is, again, I know I've been saying it again and again, but you can't give up because many people are going to say you can't do it. You can't do it. Many people are going to say you can't do it. Maybe even people in your family, extended family, will say, why don't you become a doctor? Why don't you become a lawyer? Why don't you take a normal 9 to 5 job? Because it's easier. It's well, not easier. It's more standard. It's not easier. I'm sorry. Everyone has their challenges. It's more known. It's standard. It's less risk. That's
More
what it is.
structured, yeah.
Structured. So many people are going to tell you that it's not possible, but you have to believe in yourself, because if you believe in yourself, that's when everyone else will eventually start believing in you. So you just can't give up. So these would be the two main points, and you have to continue to learn and be ready to make mistakes, because you're gonna make many mistakes. You're gonna make many mistakes, and you have to learn to not have an ego, accept your mistakes, and continue to move forward.
Right. I think we have a lot of inquisitive students now on the panel with us. Harsimran is there. She would like to raise a question.
Sure.
Hello, good morning, ma'am.
Hi, how are you? Good morning.
I'm good. So my question to you is, like, being a professional and philanthropist, you still get a time to help the needy. And as a management student, I want to understand how you manage your time and effort so well.
um, I think the first thing I would like to say is that I don't think I'm not helping anyone at all. I think, even through Swatantra, it's all, I think we're just a catalyst. We're just providing a product that no one else has provided. And they're repaying with principal and interest. So that's point number one. Point number two is, that's a very good question, because I don't know. I think it's just, at the end of the day, it's all about having a great team, like I said, and they need to understand you. They need to understand small things like, what time does she work best? Is she better in the morning? Is she better in the evening? When does she need her space? When does she want to hang out with her friends? They really need to understand you, or most of you at least, so that they can plan your schedule for you. So for me personally, I don't know what I would do without them, without my team. They plan everything for me, in terms of, at least, so time management really, it for me personally, time management is all done by my team, and I can't take any credit for it. I really can't. So I don't know whether I've given you I don't think I've given you the best answer, but I've just given you an honest answer, because for me, my team manages my time for me.
I think, Miss Ananya, the way you've answered, all of our students would just love to work with you as a team member, because you're so thankful and so humble towards your team. Speaks a lot about you as a person. Okay, next we have with us Megha. Megha Pant, who would ask a question from you.
Hi, Megha.
Good morning, ma'am. Hello,
Good
ma'am.
morning. Hi.
Ma'am, I'm really honored to ask you a question in this platform. Ma'am, my question is, what are the unique challenges that the women entrepreneurs are facing in the field of business world? And how are these challenges similar and different from their Western counterparts?
Wow, that's very interesting. I
Thank
think
you.
I think that's a very good question. Thank you. I think being a woman is amazing. It's beautiful. We're very lucky to be women. I think it does come with its challenges. I think, initially people may not take you as seriously. Initially, how do I, people, it's just how society has. Okay, the best way that I can explain this is how I've noticed it, which is what I'm going to do, which is not in the context of entrepreneurship, but it's in the context of gender roles. We've grown up, as a society, we've grown up knowing that the man in the family is supposed to be the breadwinner, supposed to go to work every day and come back home. The woman in the household is supposed to make the food, make children, feed the children, and that's how the house is supposed to work. Now, what happened one fine day is, I guess people just started, finding who they truly are and started getting awakened, or whatever it may be. And women started also working. Now, what happened was, everyone just got confused, because that's not what we've been taught. Women are supposed to be in the kitchen, women are supposed to cook food, women are supposed to give birth to babies, but that's not happening anymore. Women want to work as well. And so, as human beings, the easiest thing for the counterpart to do, if someone else is taking their job, is to put the other person down. And that's kind of what started happening. Everyone doesn't do that. It's just general human tendency. If there's a competitor in the house in whatever way, your ego will tell you to put the other person down. And that just happens generally in life. So this is my pragmatic approach to why women entrepreneurs are not given as much importance initially. It's just an ego game, and eventually it dies down. There's so many examples that I can give you of amazing entrepreneurs out there who are women who've really achieved a lot. it's the same in the Western world as well. It really is. The only difference maybe in terms of something as small as presentation, or the way someone dresses, maybe the way someone talks. Otherwise, at the end of the day, human beings are human beings. Yeah, it is a little bit more open-minded here. It's a little bit, but at the end of the day, the way we think is the way we think. And but I think, what, gender equality is it's getting better for sure. We're on the right path, and that's what I would like all of us to focus on.
I think that was a lot that you said right now, and very, very pragmatic, that we all would have a baggage, but the point is how we move ahead with that baggage in life. Right. There's one very interesting question that has cropped up from a student right now who's live with us. He's asking that as a millennial, we often get confused between two closely yet very different terms, that are interest and passion. And we really don't understand what is the difference. Being a youth icon and someone who truly followed her passion, can you please share your thoughts on what being passionate actually feels like, and how to differentiate between a mere interest and a true passion?
Okay. I'll have to look up the definitions of interest and passion, because I will get that wrong. But from what I have understood, this is completely my opinion, I think an interest is one level below a passion. So I may be interested in football, I may be interested in swimming, I may be interested in taking my dog for a walk right now. But a passion then is next level, where I really want to, I'm passionate about it. I have a fire in my belly. This is something that I want to achieve. So I guess that's the difference that on the spot I can make right now between the two. I don't, whoever asked the question, it's a great question. I just will have to look at exactly what the two words mean differently. But I think so let's say what I'm saying is what the person meant. The way you can tell whether it's an interest or a passion is, the easiest thing is, the way I would see it is, if you had, let's say, okay, one thing that I really enjoy doing is going to bed. Like, I love sleeping, I need my sleep. Now, if I think of, let's say, football, and then I think of music and opportunity cost, because we all understand business terms here. So, would I play 2 hours of football and give up 2 hours of sleep? Probably not. I would sleep. Would I give up 2 hours of sleep and make music? 100%. I would not sleep the entire night. So there I know that yes, I love music and it's a passion, whereas football is an interest. So you really have to think of it, because you have to make everything is relative, right? Like, everything is, someone is tall because someone is short, or someone is short, or someone is really good at something because someone is really bad at something, or it's, everything is relative to something, or someone's happy because someone's sad, so I like to think of it as opportunity cost. That's one thing I learned before I dropped out of Oxford, is the importance of opportunity cost. So that's the way I would think about it, is, would you really compromise on something that you really love for it? I haven't seen my family for a year, so obviously it's not just an interest for me, but it's a great question, and I hope I've understood it correctly. And that's I think that's the easiest way for me to personally differentiate between if something's an interest and something's a passion.
I think you've understood it properly, and you've created your own beautiful definition for the same. You don't have to look for the definition. It was so clearly explained and so beautifully explained. I think it will help our students now define the thin line between interest and passion. Okay, now moving next to your most vivid profile, I would say, being a mental health advocate. If you look about this topic in India, it is still a taboo, and you have been talking about depression, you've been talking about mental health very, very openly. And people in India, I feel, still haven't accepted these terms, and they are still very cautious using these terms. So what is your say on that?
I think it's totally normal to have a mental illness. I think it's totally normal if you're feeling depressed. I think it's totally normal if you're anxious. I can tell you tons of examples of when I've been depressed and anxious. I think it's totally normal. I don't understand why anyone should be ashamed of it. It can happen to anyone. One thing that I like to say is that we discriminate against mental illness, but mental illness doesn't discriminate against anyone, which, i.e., it can happen to anyone. Just the way I may be, walking down the stairs and I may fall down and I may fracture an arm. I need to go to a doctor. Did I want to fracture my arm? Does it matter who I really am? I just fell down. Anyone can fall down. The same way, no matter what I'm doing, I can have a bout of depression, or I can go through a panic attack. Now, of course, like, there are details like if it's genetic or, if you're predisposed in a certain environment, blah, blah, blah. But the overarching idea is that it can happen to anyone. And it's as important to take care of your mind as it is your body, if not more important to take care of your mind, if I'm allowed to say so. The mind controls everything. If I'm having a bad day, I get tired easily, I'm fatigued, I feel like I can't think straight. Stress, something like stress, it affects everything in the body. So it's really important to take care of your mind, and I think it's totally normal to experience. I think that's a taboo because when someone thinks of someone who's mentally unwell, you think of someone who is mad, quote unquote. So someone who is breaking walls or I can guarantee you right now that when you enter into a party, the one person who is really going crazy, like partying and dancing, is probably the most depressed person. This is completely my opinion. So it's really tough. It's a very silent disease. People are, suffering a lot in silence. It's not what it seems like at all. So it's totally normal. I don't see it as a problem at all. The best of people in this world have experienced a mental illness. It's totally normal. It doesn't define who you are as a human being, and it doesn't define how successful you can be, and it doesn't define your capability at all. In fact, I think if you experience a mental illness, it makes you more resilient and you can achieve more in life. But that's my perspective.
I think extremely, extremely eye-opening. Accept yourself first and then show yourself to the world, whichever conditions you are in. And I think more than me, our students are so excited to talk about these issues and they have questions. So we have with us Harshita Chauhan.
Hi, Harshita.
Harshita, you can unmute yourself and enable your video, please. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, ma'am. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good too, ma'am. So, ma'am, myself Arshita, and I'm a PGDM student. And I just wanted to ask you a very simple question: that being such a very successful entrepreneur, a pop singer, a composer, a mental advocate, how you keep yourself positive and motivated in every sort of situations?
I think it's a mix of different things. I think one is that you really need to be passionate about. So, like, I think we discussed this earlier. You just really need to want what you want really badly, and for that you need to have a very strong why. I think the question. So what you want, what, how, when, all of that can be figured out. It can keep changing, but you need to really know why you're doing what you're doing. And every time you feel like giving up, you need to remind yourself as to why you're doing what you're doing, and it'll kind of put you back on track. That's number one. So if you really know why you want to do what you want to do and why you want to achieve what you want to achieve, it makes it much easier. Number two, you really need to just have the right people around you who can encourage you, who can guide you. So I'm very strong on myself. I critique myself very hard. So I don't work well with tough love. So if anyone gives me tough love, I back off completely. I require people around me who are loving, who can tell me I can do certain things, because I am my biggest critique. And of course, people who can tell me right from wrong in their own way. And so you need to have people who understand you, understand the way you work emotionally, and then who can be there for you. So, it's 10 o'clock at night. I was tired, but I knew how important this was, and I really wanted to be there. And I needed the right people around me to be like, hey, you can do it. Like, come on, you can do it, and just that one thing from people you love can really make a big difference. So I think two things are really important. One is you yourself need to really know why you are doing what you're doing, and number two is you just need to have the right people around you to tell you that you can do it. And these two things are a killer combination.
All right, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very well said. We need a lot of people around us who accept us, if not love us, promote us, but they should accept us, right? Next we have Priyanka Sachdev with us for a question.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. How are you?
First of all, I hope you're doing well in this pandemic, ma'am.
Yeah, how are you doing? I like your nails. How's it going?
Okay, ma'am, as you being a co-founder of Empire, I would
Yeah.
like to ask you, are there any facilities available for the people who cannot afford mental health therapies in
Yeah, so that's a very good question. We have something called the Empower Foundation, where we provide services of the exact same level to people at subsidized rates. The only difference is that the psychologists and the psychiatrists may not be as experienced, but they're still really, really good. So yes, to answer your question, we do have it at subsidized rate. We also launched One-on-One, which is a 24/7 helpline, which is free of cost. But it's only in Maharashtra currently. We are going to expand it. You can call free of cost, completely anonymously, talk for however long you want to a psychologist, a therapist on the other side who's certified. And if I had that while growing up, it would have made a big difference. So it's like you just have the number and you just call and you can just talk to, it's like talking to a unknown friend who is certified to give you good advice, basically free of cost, anonymous. So hopefully that has helped people out there, and the line is on empowerminds.com and you can kind of get that through that. So yeah, we're doing tons of things for people at
of
subsidized rates.
okay, sorry. And ma'am, my next question, what would be your piece of advice for the people who are, managing their mental health in such times?
Just keep going because it does get better. And one thing that really helped me in the past is just taking, like, even if you just take 10 minutes at a time, that's fine. It's okay. Like, you can just take it. You can just take it. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna do is drink my coffee. The next thing I'm gonna do after that is maybe like go for a shower. The next thing I'm gonna do after that is read this piece of, I don't know, this book. The next thing I'm gonna do is read my emails. Just take it piece by piece. Don't think of it as an entire day, because even an entire day can seem really daunting. So just take it piece by piece and it gets easier, is what I would say. Yeah. But I mean, it depends on the type of illness. It depends on many, many things. So I don't think that I can give a generalized answer, but the one thing that I could say possibly would be this.
Thank you
I
so much.
think when you say that we have to give time to our own self, this is one piece of advice that works just for everybody. You have to think about yourself, give time, and your app, I think, is more like somebody is listening. We are there, and there's just this feeling that we are listening makes a lot of difference.
Well, we're there for you. We have people who care about you, and we don't want you to feel alone. Just like I didn't want to feel alone while growing up. No one wants to feel alone. We're social. At the end of the day, we're social beings.
Right. And again, nobody is there to judge you over that phone call. They're just patiently listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great thing, we would say. Next, we have Abdul Hanan Siddiqui, who would like to ask a question from you.
Yeah.
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Hi, Abdul. How are you?
I'm fine. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you for setting up the new benchmark for the Indian artists. So
thank
my
you.
question is, can prosperity bring happiness in life? And what life lesson would you recommend for us?
Wow. Prosperity. So how do you prosperity in terms of you're talking about wealth and fame, or what is it? How do you what are you exactly talking
Wealth
about?
and success, both.
Okay.
Like in this era, we people are just running for money, money, money.
Yeah.
And success also we people want. So my question is that one. So money and success can bring happiness in life.
So there's a quote. So it can make life easier, but it can never bring happiness. So there's a quote. It's a very, very, very famous quote, and I'm sorry I can't remember who it's by, but it basically says something like this: that I wish everyone was rich and famous so that they knew that that wasn't the answer. Um, I think what really matters, the things that truly, truly matter in life are priceless because money can't buy them. There are tons of people who are very rich and famous who are very, very unhappy. Yes, it totally makes life easier. 100% it makes life easier. And there's no denying that. It makes it easier to get opportunities. It makes it, things get easier, life gets easier as a whole. And it may get, doors can open up. You can do quote unquote things that other people may not be able to afford or do. But at the end of the day, does all of that matter if you're not happy? No, not at all. I think peace of mind, peace from mind rather, comes from things that money or fame can't really get you, which is things like love, kindness, compassion, just being a good person and looking within and trying to find that spark within you. So I personally don't think prosperity may bring happiness, an illusion of happiness in the short run is the best way I can explain it. But it's at the end of the day, when you go to bed, it doesn't really matter. It's just you and your thoughts. And can you and your pillow get along with each other at that stage? I don't know. It really depends on your conscious. So yeah, it's a tricky one, but I don't think prosperity brings true happiness and peace from mind.
So, ma'am, what life lesson would you recommend for us?
Right. That's a very I don't want to go wrong with this. That's the thing, it's a very let me. So I'm just gonna take a minute and think what have I mean. So I spoke about the importance of not giving up, and I think this can sound a little bit melancholic, but I think it's important for me to say it because I think about it quite often. Is the day I die, right? No one's gonna be like, oh, she had this much money, oh, her fashion sense was, oh, she had these many clothes, oh, she had these many cars. None of that is gonna matter. At that time, people hopefully will say, hey, she touched my life in this way. Her song made me feel better. She was a good human being. So these are the things that really matter. So if you think about it, and you just close your eyes while sleeping, and you think, what is it at the end of the day that I want to leave behind in this world? What do I want people to remember me as? And then just take it backwards from there. It's really important that you know what you're doing, and you kind of want to be a good person, leave a good legacy. So I think it's really important to know what you're doing in life and to really know what you want to leave behind with people, I think. But just have fun. I think that's what I would say. Have fun. Because, all of these things keep coming and going. Success, failure, relationships, family issues, money, fame, all keeps coming and going. But you really have to have fun and enjoy the journey because life is too short. So I think my final answer, log kar diya jaye, is have fun in life because life is meant so that you can have fun.
Okay, surely lock kar diya jaye for all the students. Please have a lot of fun. Great, and that's what our students keep on doing. Miss Anani, you come from a very, very renowned family which carries a grand stature, and I want to understand, was there any kind of a pressure or specific expectations that you had to live up to? How did you deal with the same?
I think no matter where you come from and what you do, there'll be expectations, and there'll be people saying things and people not saying things. It just happens in different degrees. So it's really important to take it with a pinch of salt because as an artist or as an entrepreneur, let's say as an artist, you can't keep releasing hits. There will be certain songs that don't do so well. That doesn't mean you haven't given it your best. It can be the circumstance. There's so many reasons as to why it may not pick up, but that doesn't mean that the song is a bad song. So you just have to keep sort of just moving along and going with the flow.
Okay, great. As you just said that life should be all about fun. So we have something Karan Johar style, a rapid fire. So we want it to be rapid and we want a lot of fire. Are you ready for the same?
I hope so. Yeah,
Okay.
let's try it. Let's try.
Okay, great. So out of the 4 robust profiles that you have, which one is your favorite and why?
I love my music, whatever you want to call that persona. I love that's closest to my heart and soul.
Okay, great. Music comes first. Who's your role model in life?
I think I have different people I look up to for different reasons, but my parents will always be my role models. I think my parents will always be the reason for why I do many things in my life.
Okay, as a child, everybody asks us, you love your mom or you love your dad more? So what would you say on that?
Oh, do I love my mom or my dad more? It's impossible. It's like asking me, do I prefer my right leg or my left leg? Like, I won't be able to walk I mean, I will be able, it's the same thing, right? They both have their own importance in your life. So I love my dad in a different way, I love my mom in a different way, and I love them for different reasons, and they're both amazing parents, and that's what I love. So I can't choose just because I truly cannot choose. I love them both immensely and unconditionally.
And I guess now you're getting a gift from both of them because that's the ideal answer. Okay, so what gives you a rush, on stage performance or recording an album?
I mean, being on stage just has a completely different feeling that cannot be replicated. I mean, it's amazing. But even being in studio, I maybe sound like I'm on the fence, I'm being diplomatic, but I'm really not. These questions, honestly, I don't know. If I had to choose, I would say I mean, the point of writing good music is so that you can connect with people, and if you're not on stage after that, it could be a little bit redundant. So I would say being on stage is the best feeling possible. I would say so. I guess if I had to choose, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Which is that one value that you always hold on to?
Honesty.
Okay. So you try to be honest in every situation.
Yeah.
Great. Celebrity life or a normal life? And we want you to be very honest on that.
Celebrity life.
Okay, great. That was very honest. What is your typical day routine like?
Just to answer that, and it's not me justifying it, but I would not be having this platform, or I would not be getting this opportunity to talk to all of you if I didn't have the life that I've earned for myself right now. And if that is quote unquote classified as a celebrity life, then so be it. I mean, if that's what it's called, I'd say it. But I wouldn't change my life for anything right now, and I've worked hard for it, so I'm proud of it.
Definitely, most definitely, yes. So, as I asked, what is your typical day routine like?
I mean, it's like currently it's all over the place because I'm promoting my song and I'm getting all these amazing opportunities, and because of COVID. So currently I don't have a routine other than the fact that I wake up, I work a lot in the day, and then I go back to sleep. And then I do yoga, work out, try to eat healthy, just tons of music stuff and meetings, Zoom calls, being connected with people I love. It's literally, I think what everyone is doing in COVID is what I'm doing in COVID as well. We're all in the same boat.
Okay, great. What kind of future projects and prospects are you looking at currently?
A new single releasing.
Okay, great. I think we all are waiting for the same.
For any artist, the next stage would be release new music. So I guess for me as well, I mean, the next obvious step is to release more music.
Okay, we have our budding lawyers with us today. We have our faculty members, we have future managers and whatnot. So all our students gathered here are waiting for one career advice that you would like to give to them. Though you've given many, but just that one thing that they should always keep in mind.
Yeah. I would just really say that whatever you take up in life as your career, please ensure that you love doing it. Please don't take it up because your mom has said it or your dad has said it or someone else has said it. At the end of the day, this is something that you have to live with. This is something that you're going to do every single day of your life. So please choose wisely. I was very inspired. I had done this internship at HSBC investment banking when I was about 15 or 16. And there was a gentleman who had come in and I started talking with him, and he said he was ex HSBC, and he earned all this money that he had to earn, but he was very unhappy, and he quit his job at HSBC, and now he's a florist because he loves flowers and that's what he always wanted to do. And he's really happy now, and so I think what I truly learned that day was please take up what you truly love in your career as your career, and it shouldn't feel like work. If it starts feeling like work, then you should probably try to change something here and there. You're not always going to love everything about your career. Then there's obviously going to be aspects that you don't love, but you should enjoy it for most part of it, is what I would say. So yeah, please take up what you truly love to do for yourself.
Okay, great. And now this one is coming from a very, very popular demand. Our students want you to sing 2 lines of your favorite song for them.
This Zoom call, I think it wouldn't be the best thing for me to sing on Zoom. Is that okay?
Yeah, it would work fine.
No. No, we wouldn't, right? It's very bad quality.
Yeah, the quality isn't great.
Okay, that's okay.
I just believe in doing, especially when it comes to my art, I believe in doing it really well. So I wouldn't mind like sending a voice note or something like that so you can send it to everyone who's watching, but I'd rather not sing it when the quality is low. That's my
That will
thing.
be
I like doing everything very properly. That's
that
what
will
I'm
be
gonna.
great if you can send us the voice note and we'll share it with us.
I will do that immediately. As soon as we're off this call, I will send you guys a voice note.
Thank you so much. And which is your favorite song? Last question. From your own albums.
Of all time. Oh, Love Suicide. It's in my EP Fingerprint.
Okay.
But having said that, please listen to Let There Be Love if you haven't listened to it. I would really appreciate that. Send me your feedback. And thank you for listening, and for everyone who's on here, thank you for your time. I know it's early in the morning for you. I hope everyone's well, everyone's healthy, and yeah, just continue smiling, and yeah, just be you.
Thank you so much, Miss Ananya, for gracing us